Welcome to the Digital Academy of Enriching Arts. Here, we cross the boundaries of time to explore the greatest triumphs of human creativity. But to keep this journey going, we need a little help from you.
If you enjoy diving deep into the masterpieces of literature and philosophy, be sure to hit that like button. It helps us bring these timeless stories to more people. To ensure you never miss our latest explorations into the breathtaking worlds of classical music and fine art, hit subscribe and ring the bell. And if you want to help us build a community of true art lovers, share this channel with your friends. The Academy is always accepting new students.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving deep into the massive, resonant evolution of R&B and soul. We're going to trace its roots all the way from the raw, unfiltered emotion of gospel and blues, right up to its absolute domination of modern pop music. Seriously, it's an incredible journey all about rhythm, identity, and the sheer power of the human voice. Let's get right into it.
Now, if you recall our past discussions, we talked about how rock music operates on this ideology of rebellion, right? That fundamental statement of, I refuse. But R&B and soul? They do something entirely different. They look right at you and say, I am here. Hear me. In this music, the human voice isn't just singing. It acts as an actual instrument of testimony. It can whisper, it can cry, shout, pray, seduce, you name it. But ultimately, it proves that personal experience really, truly matters.
To really wrap our heads around this evolution, we're going to follow the branches of this musical tree across 5 stages: the birth of soul, sacred voices meeting secular worlds, the power of the groove, how the personal becomes political, and finally, the great musical tree that grew out of all of it.
Okay, starting right off with Section 1, the birth of soul. Let's look at how this genre fundamentally redefined the entire emotional core of popular music.
So while genres like rock focused heavily on that intense individual rebellion, soul shifted the focus entirely to connection. And what makes this so incredibly special is that it takes a strictly personal emotion and beautifully transforms it into a completely collective experience. A soul singer doesn't just get on the mic and sing, I am sad. No, their performance literally makes you feel their sadness.
Emerging back in the 1940s, R&B wasn't just one fixed, rigid sound. Think of it more as a deeply expressive musical family. Right at the center, you have the human voice, which is highly improvisational. But then, listen to what's surrounding it. You've got syncopated drums laying down this deep groove, a melodic bass that's actually singing its own melody, keyboards layering in harmony, and horns acting almost like sharp rhythmic punctuation marks. Add in the background vocals, and together, the whole shebang created something profoundly expressive.
That brings us perfectly to Section 2, Sacred Voices, Secular Worlds. This is where the church officially enters the realm of pop music. And the true engine behind it? A really daring crossover. Look, if you want to understand soul, you absolutely have to understand gospel. It's that simple. Artists took deep gospel traditions like call and response and brought them front and center. If you're not familiar, this is a profoundly communal concept. The singer calls out, and the choir, the band, or even the audience answers back. It literally turns the music into an inclusive conversation. Suddenly, you aren't just a passive listener anymore. You're an active participant.
Visionary artists like Ray Charles brilliantly drove this transformation. By crossing that strict boundary between the church and the radio, the exact same vocal intensity that used to express religious ecstasy was powerfully repurposed. All of a sudden, that soaring spiritual delivery was being used to express romantic love, human desire, and heartbreak. Just like that, the sacred voice had officially entered the secular world.
Moving right along to Section 3, the power of the groove. This is the era where rhythm literally takes center stage, and the sheer physical sensation of the music becomes the main event. The emergence of institutions like Motown in Detroit was an absolute game changer.
Founded in 1959, Motown intentionally engineered what became an extraordinarily successful sound. They took sophisticated pop melodies and married them to these irresistible, incredibly danceable grooves. We're talking heavy bass lines, rhythmic guitars, tambourines, hand claps, and it worked beautifully. It crossed social boundaries in a deeply segregated America, proving that pop culture can break down barriers way before politics ever catches up.
But then, revolutionaries like James Brown stepped in and just totally rewrote the formula. He took R&B and began to aggressively strip away the conventional chord structures. To him, changing chords wasn't the point. Rhythm was the point. He focused purely on the interconnected rhythm of the drummer, the bass, and the guitar, all just tightly locking in together.
And in this new, highly rhythmic space, which we eventually came to know as funk, the groove itself became the composition. Think of it this way. If soul says to you, feel this emotion, funk looks at you and says, feel this rhythm.
His secret weapon? It was something James Brown famously called the one. He heavily emphasized the very first beat of a measure. When the whole band locks into the one, it creates this crazy architectural stability. It's a foundation so powerful you can physically feel it in your chest. It's music you can endlessly dance to, yet under the hood, it remains incredibly sophisticated. Next up is Section 4, The Personal Becomes Political. Because during the American Civil Rights era, this music evolved once again, merging the individual human experience with much broader societal realities. We can actually watch this transformation unfold through 5 specific musical windows. First, Ray Charles turns R&B into a totally new language, bridging gospel and blues. Then, Aretha Franklin takes respect and turns soul into a fierce, unapologetic declaration of human dignity. James Brown strips it all down into funk. Marvin Gaye asks what's going on, transforming soul into a sharp vehicle for social consciousness. And finally, Stevie Wonder blends the whole thing together, proving beyond a doubt that soul is a universal musical language.
In these eras, these songs didn't just top the charts. They functioned objectively as the anthems and prayers of their time. And right here is where the deepest emotional mechanism of soul is fully revealed. The singer stands up and says, "This is my pain." But through the music, the community answers back, "We know that pain." An individual's suffering or hope or joy is instantly acknowledged and shared by everyone listening. That right there, that is the absolute magic of soul.
Which brings us to our final section, number 5, The Great Musical Tree. Ultimately, you'll see that these eras and artists aren't isolated genres at all. They are deeply interconnected branches growing from the exact same African musical traditions.
Tracing this lineage step by step reveals the incredible evolution of a single powerful idea. It starts with the raw emotion of sacred music crossing over into pop. It moves through the voice becoming a tool of immense power, shifts into the groove becoming the composition itself, matures into a personal voice speaking on complex society, and finally culminates in a universally accessible musical language. It's like watching a musical domino effect.
By the time we hit the 1970s and 80s, the history of Black popular music literally becomes a living archive. It directly fed the massive, sweeping orchestrations of disco. It was, and absolutely still is, sampled heavily in hip-hop, where those old soul bass lines are repurposed into entirely new art forms. And it was completely absorbed into the genre-fluid masterpieces of artists like Michael Jackson and Prince. They proved once and for all that the boundaries between R&B, pop, rock, and electronic music, they were totally artificial to begin with.
So as we see, R&B and soul lay the rhythmic and emotional foundation for literally all modern pop and dance music, it leaves us with one incredibly fascinating question to ponder for our next explainer. What happens when rhythm stops being merely a supported part of a song and becomes the entire reason for the song to exist in the first place? Think about that next time you hear a massive dance track drop. Thanks so much for joining me today, and keep listening closely.